Hello and welcome to episode number 121 of Week in Review. My name is Sean, and on this week's show we're going to talk about some fancy limited edition Oreos, the film Scoob, this week's new releases, and the streams happening over on twitch.tv/SeanOsaurusRex. Before we jump into this week's movie, let's try a limited edition Oreo. Unfortunately, it's not a Scooby snack, which would have melded well together in this episode and been very thematically appropriate. Damn you, marketing team! Instead, we'll try some tiramisu Oreos. These are limited edition. This is a dessert that I don't know anything about. This wording is too fancy for me. It needs to say chocolate or marshmallow or cantaloupe or sparkles. I don't know. Tiramisu, there's a lot of words and letters going on here. It's only one word, but it's still a lot. And it just seems like the kind of dessert that someone would make on Chopped that I would roll my eyes at in pretension and be like, oh my god, you went with that. Because on Chopped they go in and they ruin perfectly good foods like deviled eggs by saying, I put a pickled pear asparagus on top of this. And I was like, shut up, idiot. The deviled eggs are the easiest food in the world. It's mayonnaise, egg, mustard, maybe a little bacon on top. That's it. Egg yolk and the white egg part. I forgot a couple of ingredients. It's real simple though. Instead, we have something complex called tiramisu. I'm going to stop talking about deviled eggs. And it looks like, just kind of looking at the crinkle package, it's a half and half cream cookie. So half of it is like a tan, and then the bottom half is white. And here we have what I assume is tiramisu in the context or the form. I don't know. You tell me. What is that? Is that what the dessert is? Because that looks scary. And it looks like there's nuts in there. I don't like nuts. Ooh, boy, this is not going to be good. I'm going to predict it right now. Because I can't open the... Oh, there it goes. I found it. Hang on. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. Professional Oreo package opener here. We got it. Whoops. That wasn't intentional. Okay, so here, I'll be honest with the audience. I was trying to do a comedically over the top, but it, instead of breaking here, it ripped down the side and dropped an Oreo. So, I don't know. This doesn't even stick together. Okay. So here we go. We have the tiramisu limited edition Oreos. They look really nice, except for the one that's on the floor. They come in 3 rows. I would assume that's what regular Oreos come in. I don't know why I pointed that out. Alright, here we go. They smell actually kind of potent when I opened them, but they kind of just smell like regular Oreos. It could be that the chocolate cookie is overpowering the flavoring, and the fact that it is only half cream could lend to not a ton of flavor, maybe. I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't know what tiramisu is, and it looks like it has nuts. That's not a good start, okay? If this were deviled eggs or cantaloupe, we'd be in a much better position here, but there's nuts in a dessert, and that doesn't make any sense. Get your peanuts out of here, okay? So let's try it. I don't know what I'm looking for here. I don't know. They're not bad. I guess. They're not great. They feel like they're richer than like a normal Oreo, where it's like, I had one and I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to have another one of these. They're not like a double stuff Oreo where I sit there and eat an entire container and watching a Packers game. I don't know. They're not bad, but they're not great, I guess, which is kind of weird because I don't really know what I'm looking for, but I'm also not disgusted by them. So take that for what you will. Also, the packaging sucks, so keep that in mind. So if you're opening this and you get stuck at this part, don't just keep ripping, okay? Get a knife, the biggest knife you could find, or some scissors, you know, and then you can open it. But there you go. I learned what tiramisu is today. It has nuts in it, and I don't really care for the Oreos all that much. I don't know. These look like peanuts, okay? Or something. I don't know what they are. Wow, another classic Oreo review from your favorite YouTuber. Thanks for watching. Now that we're filled up on snacks, Scooby, Oreo, or otherwise, we can talk about this week's movie, which is Scoob. Originally set to release on May 15th in theaters, it got bumped to a digital home premiere for that same day, which is kind of interesting because a lot of the other movies have just been kind of pushed, with the exception of like Trolls. It's been kind of a weird and interesting time as far as that stuff has been concerned, because movies that were already in theaters got pushed to a digital release, and then there's only been the two that I can think of off the top of my head that have just gone like straight to digital. As far as wide release, bigger budget movies, I'm sure there are tons of smaller movies that have just been like, we're not going to theaters, we're just going to throw it out on digital. So I checked it out when it came out on digital on Friday. I was curious about this movie from the outset when I saw the initial trailer. I thought it was an interesting take on a franchise that I don't particularly care about. I understand what Scooby-Doo is. I know what it has to offer. It's never really been my sort of thing. I'm not super into the like supernatural ghosts and monsters sort of stuff. I've always been much more of like a sci-fi person, and that's just kind of how it's gone. But it's not that I don't like Scooby-Doo, I just don't particularly care for it. And I thought this was a cool jumping in point, because in the trailer it seems like they're going to start an origin story, and that's actually what this movie is, even if it is a little weird from time to time. After a nice opening sequence where we meet Scooby and Shaggy, and then we experience their first meet and their instant bond between man and dog. After Scooby and Shaggy meet, they dress up and they go out trick-or-treating, where Shaggy runs into some like kind of weird kids who take away his candy, but because the movie needs to establish the monsters and villainous aspects of the movie, the kids for some reason don't like candy and think that it's all a ploy from like big corn syrup or some weird joke that doesn't quite work. So instead of obviously them stealing the candy, they throw it in a house that's been haunted. This is when we meet Fred, Velma, and Daphne. Fred shows up as a literal knight in shining armor. They go into the house, they end up solving their first case, and it kind of establishes how the context of the group works. You have Velma, who's very smart and able to pinpoint exactly what's going on and how to defeat it. I guess Fred's kind of the brains of the operation, and then Scoob and Shaggy kind of accidentally unveil his like master plan or whatever, and we get kind of the classic line of, I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for those darn dirty kids, or something along those lines. After the gang solves their first case, they decide that they want to work together, and we get a very faithfully recreated opening of the original TV series with like an updated song, and it advances the film 10 years, or advances the plot 10 years, and we re-meet the gang at a diner with a cameo from straight out of 2003, and this is where the movie makes its first major plot choice that I would not make. It insists on splitting the gang up, which is kind of weird because for me personally, as a person who does not have a ton of experience with Scooby-Doo and these characters, I don't think we get enough of them together before they are separated. What I would have liked to have seen would be a couple more cases to really establish the characteristics of the characters. Fred is this way, he's the brawn. We really get to see more of Velma and what she brings to the group from her like technological smarts aspect of it. Whatever the hell Daphne does, because I don't think she gets a whole lot to do in this movie at all. And then we get to see more of Scoob and Shaggy just kind of accidentally solving cases, because that could be kind of fun to amp up the silliness that they get into and kind of work that angle into it. But what this would also do is it would help us understand why they like each other, how they gel together, and how much they mean to each other. Because when they split up, it was kind of jarring to me, because I was like, I don't know if I should care. Like, should I care? How do I know that these characters care about each other? And this is the first of many times that this movie kind of just assumes you know what's going on, so you know how you should feel. Like, you know that you should care, you know that you should be angry, you know that you should be sad, or whatever about this particular situation. The movie kind of gets into a little bit of a clumsy section with a lack of energy and a weird chase sequence that wasn't very exciting or interesting, and it leads Scooby and Shaggy to, and this is not a spoiler because it's in the trailer, be teleported up, and They don't know where they are, so then Fred, Daphne, and Velma have to go find them. After Scooby and Shaggy get taken up into the air, we are introduced to Blue Falcon, Dee Dee, and Dynamite. I really like the introduction of Blue Falcon, Dynamite, and Dee Dee because they bring a lot of life to the movie and they bring a lot of energy to it. Some of the best bits are up in the ship when they're trying to work with Scooby and Shaggy to figure out who's trying to get to them and for what reason. They're kind of on the case of like this other dastardly villain that they're trying to get a hold of, and for a lot of reasons this movie is a little bit odd, but one of its weirder reasons is that it's very attached to how Scooby-Doo was in the 60s. There's one bright side to this, and it's the design of the character, or the villainous character, who it just oozes like skeezy like 60s cartoon villain who has like this really big face and twirly mustache, and like I really enjoyed his character design. But the more frustrating and annoying parts were the constant sound effects that this movie used, of like when characters crash into a wall, there's like a big cymbal crash, and it's jarring because this movie takes place in at least 2020, and to have those sound effects makes it feel like it's not quite in time with where it should be, and it also makes the movie feel a lot more childish than it actually is. I think the main reason that I had so much fun with Dynamite and Dee Dee and Blue Falcon is not only because they bring a lot of energy to the film and actually bring some of the bigger laughs in the movie, it's that Blue Falcon is actually a really interesting character, and he's like the son of a superhero, but he's not really sure what he's doing, and he didn't necessarily pick it. It was just kind of thrust upon him. And meanwhile, he's working with Dynamite and Dee Dee, who know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they want out of him, and they're frustrated because they don't know what Blue Falcon is dealing with internally. It kind of touches on this topic a little bit, but they could have gone so much further with it. Instead, what they do is they get a really annoying plot device that I was hoping that this movie would avoid. And they split up the two characters, Scooby and Shaggy, between a like egotistical / jealousy rift that you can see coming from a mile away, and it sucks because it feels like it should mean more. The only time these two characters should ever be separated is at a climactic event when it is the most important and the hardest decision for them to both make. Instead, they split them up early. They give you some garbage about people changing. This movie is very like directed at kids, and it is very spelled out of like, hey kids, sometimes people change, and that's okay. It doesn't necessarily mean good or bad, just means that things are changing. And I'm like, oh boy, you're really nailing this on the nose in a way that you could probably come around a different way, or you could even just tackle a different lesson, like you don't have to be what your parents are, or something along those lines, something that's more interesting, something that's more individual to this specific movie, instead of just kind of a generic lesson that is told so blatantly to the audience. Unfortunately, with the introduction of Dynamite, Dee Dee, and Blue Falcon, it relegates Fred, Velma, and Daphne to the sidelines. So if you didn't get to know them prior to this movie, or in the very brief time that they are on screen with Scoob and Shaggy, good luck getting to know them all that well through the rest of this movie, because they're on a road trip and they don't spend a lot of time on screen, and that was very surprising. This is absolutely a Scoob movie. He is front and center with Shaggy. Those are the two characters they're pushing. It's a really odd choice, and I think it makes the sped up sequence that advanced the timeline all the more damaging to the movie, because we're supposed to care. We're supposed to understand and know these characters, but the movie, like I was talking about earlier, kind of starts to really hope that you know these characters and you understand these characters and motivations, their relationships, all that stuff. And there's also a lot of like weirdly important moments in the movie that feel like they're supposed to mean more. Like Fred, like one time hugs his car and he's like, "I love you, car," and I'm like, I don't know why he's doing this. He also puts on his little handkerchief scarf thing, and the way it's shown makes it seem like it's supposed to be really important. And I was like, I don't know what that means, because I don't know any of these characters, because you as a filmmaker didn't give me a reason to care. You assumed that I knew, but I don't know. The movie is fortunately a brisk hour and 33 minutes or so. It does the things that it needs to do. It does some things that it doesn't need to do, and it avoids some things that it probably should do in the form form of fleshing out the characters a little bit more. It misses an opportunity to talk more about Blue Falcon and his stuff. It's pretty harmless and inoffensive. I don't think anybody's going to absolutely love this movie. I don't think anyone's going to absolutely hate it. It was fun while it lasted. I had a good enough time with it where I didn't regret the decision to watch it. It just feels like kind of a missed opportunity to get me into something that I didn't really care about in the first place, which is Scooby-Doo just in general. This movie has jokes that work. It has a bright and nice color palette to it. I like the designs of the characters and the animation style. Just has a couple weird plot choices here and there that really pull any sort of like emotional engagement away from it, and it's just not the best movie, but it was worth a watch, and I had a good time with it as I drank roughly 3 Mike's Hard Lemonade. Finally, on this week's show, we'll take a look at this week's new releases. There's nothing in theaters, but The Lovebirds, a movie that was supposed to be in theaters, got picked up by Netflix, and that is debuting on Friday. On Blu-ray, we have The Way Back, Onward, and Sonic, movies that have been on the home premiere digital services for months now, but they're finally out on Blu-ray if you prefer a physical copy of it. And then there are actually a few good games coming out this week. We have Saints Row the Third Remastered, that's on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Golf with Your Friends finally makes it to console, that's on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch. And then A Fold Apart is on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 this week. I highly recommend checking out A Fold Apart. I played it on Switch about a month ago. It's a great game. I really loved the story aspects of it. The puzzles are fun. I only got stuck twice. It's really great. And it looks like the achievement / trophy list is going to be really easy, and it looks like they are all story-based achievements and trophies. So if you're looking for a good game that has easy achievements and trophies, this is definitely a game for you. And if you're just looking for a good story-based game or a good puzzle game, this game is also for you. So it's hitting all those check marks this week. As for the streams happening over on twitch.tv/ShaunaSourceRex, tonight is Tuesday, and that will be a Paper Mario stream. I was originally going to play Golf with Your Friends, but I decided to flip that to Monday to celebrate the launch. My dates were backwards in my head, so we'll be doing Paper Mario tonight. Friday will be Uncle Rico Special Edition and the start of Saints Row the Third Remastered, and that will continue through the weekend with baseball in the early afternoon, and then Saints Row the Third Remastered on Saturday and Sunday, and then we'll probably finish up Saints Row DLC, I would assume. On Monday, we'll play some Paper Mario. We'll see what the schedule has. Maybe we'll do a couple chapters of Paper Mario, or we'll do some baseball. We'll see what happens and how I'm feeling when Monday comes around, because I don't have to work that day, so it'll be a longer stream. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Week in Review. If you like the content, you can scroll on down and you can hit that subscribe button, and then you can ring that bell so you know when I post new videos. If you like the content enough, or you want to let me know your thoughts and opinions on Scoob or on the Tiramisu Oreos, you can scroll on down and leave me a comment down below. Be sure to head over to twitch.tv/ShaunaSourceRex and check out the streams on Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and then check back right here every Tuesday for more Week in Review. We'll see you next week.